Stan, good luck. Good luck on this is being.
I got a number of responses and talked to a number of people today. They all know that I'm not Rabbi Forspan and may not start everything at the same time, but hopefully it won't be too late and we'll.
Well, I'm glad I'm a little early and had a chance to talk to both of you.
Yes, I saw Claire there a minute ago, but she's gone now.
Well, she's probably getting things back together.
I don't know.
There's Leon. Talk to him. Hi, Leon.
I can't hear him.
He's got to get himself together.
And there's Eddie. Hi, Claire.
Hi.
Are you feeling any better?
Yeah, somewhat. Lou's coming on, but he's going to be on. What's that?
He's
Maybe
making that noise.
Ed, is that yours?
Yes, it is.
Sounds like Ed.
You hear me now? Got a lot of white noise.
I guess maybe, Ed, you need to mute yourself. Oh, that's better. There's Leon.
Hello?
Hello? And Andrew?
Yeah, Lou's going to be on, but he's going to be on mute because he's coughing.
Okay, that's a good idea.
You want us on mute? You want us on mute?
You can unmute. It turns out that Ed Shackman's system was, having static on it. It got broadcast. So, no, if it comes or when it comes to the point that we're sharing videos, which I will, or I'm sharing videos, then it's better if there's no background. But I'm not going to mute I can't mute everybody anyway. So we're a couple minutes from 7:30. Two other people are going to, besides those that are on, are going to do readings that I've arranged. So I expect Lou Loomis and Judy. I expect several others, but we'll get started when we, a little after 7:30.
Hi, Ray.
Hello.
Hi, Armand.
Claire, Ed Shackman, Leon, Andrea,
Hello.
before Stan and Bonnie.
Hi, Lou. Are you on?
Hi, everybody.
Oh.
But I'm not getting my picture on, so.
We just have your voice, Jay.
Just got my voice, you don't have my picture, and I don't know why. I never can figure this thing out.
I don't know where mine is. I don't see my picture, but I'm on.
Actually, think he's using.
Okay. We'll talk afterwards, and this is being recorded, so you'll be able to see it if you want.
Okay, I'm not sure.
Okay, well, thanks for calling.
Stan Schroeder is not there.
Yes, he is. Stan's there. Stan's
Does that sound any better?
the people who have.
Yes,
tonight.
Ed, we don't hear the static now.
Yeah, well, you won't hear me much either, but that's okay.
It turns out that was Lou Loomis who called and said he's not well.
Oh,
And he didn't understand what I wanted him to do anyway. But I'll read the part that he would have read.
So there are 11.
Okay, it's 7:30.
I know.
There's
We're
Judy.
wait.
My wife puts a picture.
I don't see Sheila though.
Well, Sheila will go when she comes. We're gonna start, and I, planned this program, when I started reading about and understanding that this was the, 20th, anniversary, actually yesterday, of the disaster when the Columbia exploded upon reentry and 7 astronauts, 6 Americans, and Israeli, Ilan Ramon, all of course died, and they've been honored in many ways, tributes written, videos that we're going to share, and remarks. Actually, at the Space Center in Florida, there's a museum and actually several aspects to it. And one of the aspects is individual posters or displays for each astronaut that died during the program. So there was the Challenger catastrophe in 1986. There was this one, and each of those had 7 astronauts. And then there was some training accidents and other aspects of about 6 other astronauts that died during the space program. And they each have a display. And I'm going to share the screen and show the display that's there for Ilan. So let's try it out.
You were talking. He's cool. She was from the museum that has some of the astronauts.
Everything.
Everyone
works.
needs to put themselves on mute, please.
So this screen and should show several aspects, including the Israel flag and its picture, and excerpts from a notebook that were put together after the disaster. Certain fragments of the notebook survived. They were put up and put together, and we'll see more of that. So this is what we're going to be sharing. Actually, the first part of what I wanted to share is a bio that was written by a rabbi, a tribute bio that was written by a rabbi. Hold on. And at ACE, and I'm going to bring it up on my iPad so I don't have to share the screen there and read. It'll take me a minute. Okay. So who's in the background? Okay. So this is by Rabbi Shraga Simmons. And this is the first part of the bio. He embodies some of Israel's highest aspirations, most painful memories, and the dream of Jewish unity. The image is seared in our national consciousness. Deadly white streaks across the blue Texas sky. Not since the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin has one death so shaken the state of Israel. For Alain Ramon was more than around Israel's first man in space. He was a composite of the Jewish nation, child of Holocaust survivor, decorated IDF Air Force pilot, galvanizer of American-Israel ties, and a self-declared representative of all Jewry. For 16 days, Alain Ramon defied gravity by lifting his country from the morass of incessant terror, a battered economy, and vilification in world political and media circles. For 16 days, Alain Ramon embodied the age-old Jewish yearning to soar beyond the heavens. For 16 days, Alain Ramon not only represented our nation.
Sure, I hear what's going on.
Not only represented our nation. Hold on. For 16 days, Alain Ramon not only represented our nation, he made every individual Jew feel connected and proud. This is what makes his death all the more gut-wrenching. It has been said that three main themes define the contemporary Jewish life: Torah, Zionism, and the Holocaust. Nearly every Jew will cite one of these as the primary source of his Jewish identity. Ramon had impeccable Zionist credentials. As a combat pilot in the Israeli Air Force, he arguably held the country's most prestigious job. He was a member of Israel's first F-16 squadron, fought in 2 wars, and survived a collision where he ejected from his jet. "I'm not afraid," Ramon stated flatly when I asked him about his upcoming shuttle mission. "It was more dangerous to drive on a highway than to fly in the shuttle," he bemused. Although he was not afraid, he knew the risks involved. Just as he knew the risk in 1981, when he and 7 other pilots flew a daring raid to bomb the Iraqi nuclear reactor in Osirak. They flew over enemy Arab territory for hours, avoiding detection from their flight type formation that emitted a radar signal resembling a commercial airliner. Alain volunteered to fly at the vulnerable rear position since he was the only one not married. Yet, as Israel celebrated the successful raid, condemnation was near universal. A prominent US senator called, quote, one of the most provocative, ill-timed, and internationally illegal actions in that nation's history. In this light, Ramon and his colleagues underscored the deep Jewish principle of doing the right thing, even when it means going against the grain. It's a trait bequeathed by the first Jew, Abraham, whose moniker, Abraham, however, in Hebrew, literally translates as the one who stands on the other side. As the entire idol-worshiping world stood on one side, Abraham and his monotheism stood firmly on the other. In the spirit of Abraham, those who bombed the Iraqi reactor were vindicated with time. 2 decades later, as Washington prepared to oust Saddam Hussein, the international community is ever grateful for Israel's strike at Osirak. At a memorial and service in Houston, President Bush told Ramon's family, "Alain bombed the Iraqi reactor, and I will finish the job." It was widely publicized that Ramon's space baggage included a mezuzah adorned with barbed wire, symbolizing the concentration camps, as well as a copy of the drawing Moon Landscape, created by a 14-year-old boy killed in the Nazi inferno. Yet for Ramon, the Holocaust was more than mere symbol. His mother survived Auschwitz, and his grandfather was murdered there. As such, Ramon saw this shuttle flight as testament to the invincibility of the Jewish people. The look in their eyes is very powerful. Alain told me at one of his meetings with the concentration camp survivors, well, they see their hopes that died in the Holocaust as living through me. They see that despite the horrors we have endured, we are going forward. It is difficult for outsiders to understand how deeply the Holocaust is embedded in Jewish consciousness. With the promise of never again, the state of Israel arose from the ashes of Hitler's ovens, and the Holocaust plays a central role in the Israeli obsession with survival. In June 1967, as Arab armies amassed on Israel's borders, Martin Luther King Jr. was asked on national television if Israel had justification for launching a preemptive strike. Yes, said King, they have 6 million good reasons. Incredibly, Ramon viewed his 1982 Iraqi mission in this context. He says, if I can prevent a second Holocaust, he was quoted as saying, I'm ready to sacrifice my life for this. That's the first half of this particular tribute. It tells that part of his life, and it goes on. The next reader is Ray Wazana. Ray, would you unmute?
Okay. Between his Air Force heroics, his Holocaust ancestry, and his seat on the space shuttle, there was surely enough for the Israeli media to confer hero status on Ramon. But for Ilan, there was much more he hoped to achieve. He knew there is something even more central to our identity, and that Jewish destiny cannot survive without Judaism. That is why when Ramon spoke with Prime Minister Ariel during a televised news conference from outer space, he pulled out a Torah scroll. Yes, this special wallet-sized scroll symbolizes the Holocaust, having survived Bergen-Belsen. Yes, this scroll, whose owner is a physicist at Tel Aviv University and oversaw one of Ilan's space shuttle experiments, symbolizes Israeli achievement in technology. Yet most importantly, as millions of Israelis sat glued to their TV screens, Ramon held aloft this Torah scroll and declared that it is very, very important to preserve our historical tradition. And I mean our historical and religious traditions. Ramon was reaffirming the centrality of a Torah that neither Hitler's hell nor a long list of oppressors before him could extinguish. For Israel, a country that could not agree to include God in the Declaration of Independence, this was an enormous step forward. Ramon added other important Jewish elements to his flight. He sanctified the Shabbat with the first intergalactic Kiddush. He ate kosher food, and as he passed over Jerusalem, he recited the age-old declaration of Jewish faith, Shema Yisrael, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. By placing Torah tradition in such a highly role, Ramon broke from the norm of Israeli public figures who tend to view Jewish observance as the realm of the religious. This makes Ramon's actions all the more praiseworthy and his reward all the more great. After the tragedy, I saw an editorial cartoon that depicted a father and son gazing at the night sky. 7 stars dotted the heavens, 6 regular stars and 1 star of David. As the father put his arm around the boy's shoulder, he pointed to the Star of David and explained, that one is Ilan Ramon. For 16 days, Ilan Ramon occupied the world stage, and everyone knew that the Star of David on his shirt sleeve meant he was a Jew. The entire world looked at him and wondered, what is a Jew? What they saw is someone who ate kosher food, carried a Torah scroll, and was not afraid to give the ultimate sacrifice to people. That is a Kiddush Hashem, a sanctification of God's name, the single highest level that a Jew can achieve. Many people dream of unity for our fractured nation. Of those who dream, some try to do something about it. Of those who do something, only a select few actually succeed. For 16 days, there was no right, left, religious, secular, or Israeli diaspora rifts among our people. For 16 days, we felt what it means to be a unified nation. This rare glimpse relieved so much of the pain that accompanies its lacking. Excuse me. To have that image so suddenly and brutally smashed was a visceral shock to our collective system. If one word could describe Ilan's death, it is the Hebrew word halal, which has 3 separate meanings: outer space, a human corpse, and a vast crushing emptiness. But as Ilan taught us, Jewish destiny means to pick up the pieces, gather our inspiration, and move on. The Talmud tells the story of a man who came upon a tree, in Hebrew, Ilan, and enjoyed its sweet fruits and pleasant shade. Before departing, he wanted to bless the tree, but its fruits were already sweet and its shade already pleasant. So what more could he wish for that Ilan? The man said, "May it be God's will that all which derives from you will be like you." Ilan Ramon gave each of us so much, and now it is time for us to give back, to continue his legacy, that his death not be in vain. Perhaps we can try to feel more connected, to care about those who are different from us, knowing that every Jew is holy and has the potential to create a Kiddush. And we can, like Ilan, put Jewish tradition at the forefront of Israeli public life, not out of coercion, but through a recognition that Torah is the foundation from which all else flows. And we can, like Ilan, pursue the dream that, despite the tension and enmity, underneath it all, we are united as one family. We have to find a way to bring our people closer together, to show more patience and understanding, Ramon told with urgency in his voice. In 16 days, Ilan Ramon reached the heights of this world. In one shattering moment, he acquired his place in the next world. May his memory be for a blessing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hard to put it, into any better words. So we're going to share I'm going to share some short videos of various tributes to Ramon and what people have said and done. So I'm going to be sharing my screen. It'll take a minute for me to get to where I want to be. So be patient, please. Well, just missed. Okay, hold on.
We were getting the audio, but not a picture.
Well, I'm gonna share the screen. This I'm trying to. I have to stop it. Didn't do it right. Hold on.
Ordinarily, Stan has me sharing the screen.
I was able to get it to work, and now I'm having a bit of a problem. So hold on.
First survivor. She was in Auschwitz. My father fought for the independence of Israel not so long ago. So it's very exciting for me to be able to fulfill their dream that they wouldn't dare to dream.
That I would be good, even if I did nothing. That I would be good, even if I got the thumbs down. That I would be good if I got and stayed sick. That I would
It breaks with the sound barrier.
אילן רמון קובע היום את מקומו בספרי ההיסטוריה. הוא יחצה את האטמוספירה בעוד דקות ספורות. לאסיה הראשונה בתולדותינו, אחד מבניה של מדינת
that I would be good if I lost my hair and my youth. That I would be great if I was no longer queen. That I would be great if I lost not all knowing. That I would be loved even when I know myself. That that I would be good, whether with or without you.
Fido, do you have any tracking? No, sir. We do not believe that.
Hard to watch and hard not to watch. I'm gonna do one more short one, and then we're going to do another reading. And this reading is, well, before I do that, I want to read something separate. Hold on. What I want to read is something that I asked Rabbi Vorspan to tell us about what his thoughts on Ilan Ramon, and this is from Rabbi Vorspan. He says, I don't know how Jewishly observant Ilan Ramon was in his private life, but it's clear that he realized that he was going to represent the Jewish people during his time and space. And he wanted to make sure he did everything right. He called his friend Rabbi Zvi Konakov, co-director of Chabad Lubavitch of the Space and Treasures Coast in Central Florida, and asked him how Shabbat should be observed in space. He wanted to know exactly when to recite the Kiddush. One reason Shabbat became important to Ilan was reflected in his personal journal, which survived the crash. In it were these words, quoting from the Torah: God saw that all they had made, and behold, it was very good. Heaven and earth and all their components were thus completed. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And the diary included a handwritten copy of the Friday night Kiddush prayer. This was Ilan's final message to the world. I'm going to set up the second video. Take a minute.
I know there's a school named for Ilan Ramon in Agoura, I wonder if there are other schools in other cities that are named for him. Does anyone know?
I don't know, but I do know that Eric Dollins, Sherry and Lou's son, was a teacher at the school for a number of years, and I spoke to him last night. He was at our board meeting and shared with me how that school, which originally was a part of the Heschel school system, was a sister school of Abraham Joshua Heschel School, but later became independent. And they have a day on Elon's yahrzeit that they commemorate his life and talk about it in the classrooms. And actually, his yahrzeit on the Hebrew calendar this year is February 20th. But okay, let me see about the sharing.
The shuttle would normally light up in re-entry because of the heat and the friction of the Earth's atmosphere.
So that's some brief incidents and something about his family. His son, who became a pilot for the Air Force and unfortunately died in a training accident. His wife actually, after Ramon's death, did come to this country on various occasions. And I think she may even have come to that school when the school opened. So it's his legacy, of course, goes on. But what I want to do, it talks about the Torah scroll and how it was put together, or that it was. And the next thing that I want to do then is the other essay from the Aish Torah website that talks about the process and the woman who did it. So the first person to read is Judy.
So Stan, I'm sorry, you just said the Torah scroll that was put together. I don't think it was the Torah.
No. It wasn't the Torah scroll. It was his diary that was put together. The Torah was not put together.
Okay. So here we go. Somehow it survived an explosion, hurtling 38 miles to Earth and exposure to sun and rain. Meet the Israeli forensic expert who is restoring the diary. Sharon Brown was one of the many thousands of Israelis who gathered around their television sets back in January 2003 to watch the launch of the Space Shuttle Columbia, which included in its crew the first Israeli astronaut, Ilan Ramon. Along with her 4 daughters and her husband, the British-born Brown felt a surge of pride as Ramon was launched into space. We said the Tefillat HaDerech, Jewish travel prayer for him, she recalled. Little did Brown, a superintendent in the Israel Police Division of Identification and Forensic Science, realized that a year later she would play an integral role in reconstructing the last days of Ramon's life aboard the shuttle. At the beginning of April that year, less than 2 months after the Columbia's tragic disintegration, which killed all the crew members, the flight diary and notes of Ramon were found in a Texas field. The task of painstakingly restoring the heap of tattered paper that had been exposed to rain and sun after hurtling 38 miles to Earth fell to forensics expert Brown. After the accident, the Israel Air Force website opened a page where people could send emails to the family. And I wrote saying that I was very sorry and if there was ever anything I could do. Who would have imagined that 5 months later, we'd get the diary and I'd be the one to examine it out of all the people in the world? The modest yet self-assured Brown told Israel 21C last week in her laboratory at the Israel Police National Headquarters. Using computer image enhancement technology and infrared light to read the charred and tattered pages, Brown and her staff managed to piece together some of the pages like a jigsaw puzzle and reconstruct other pages where there was no discernible text showing to the naked eye. Pages included a list of topics Ramon planned to talk about during broadcasts from space, a carefully copied down text of the Sabbath Kiddush, the blessing for wine, and notes about technical aspects of the flight. Altogether, 18 pages handwritten in Hebrew were recovered. 4 sheets held Ramon's flight diary, 6 were technical classroom notes that had been made before launch, and 8 were personal notes. Brown said she was amazed that the metal ring cardboard-bound notebook had even survived. What happened was we got a pile of papers. I imagined they'd be charred, blackened bits of paper, possibly with some light source that you'd be able to see some letters in Hebrew. Well, they walked in with papers that were white with black handwriting on it, and they were a bit tattered and traumatized, but nothing like you'd imagine from the huge explosion that took place 40 miles up in the sky and then being hurtled down to Earth. It was truly amazing, she said. Brown is an early riser, usually arriving at the office at the sprawling Israel Police National Headquarters in northern Jerusalem by 7:30 a.m. After a cup of coffee, she begins her daily caseloads. Mostly we deal with identity cards and driver's licenses, which are being forged left, right, and center. We determine how they were counterfeited, when which methods were used. Most of my work is in white-collar crime, forged checks, all sorts of agreements which have been altered, she said. Her world was turned upside down the day Ramon's diary arrived. After the pages were found in San Antonio County by an Indian tracker, NASA verified that they were from Ramon's diary and handed the pages over to Ramon's widow, Rona. They suggested that they help her find a document examiner in Houston, but she decided to bring it to Israel, which, according to Brown, was the most logical decision, since whatever letters were visible were in Hebrew. The Israel Air Force unit that investigates accidents has made use of the forensics lab in the past, usually for fiber analysis or the DNA biology lab. There's an open line of communication between us, so when Rona Ramon said that she was bringing back the remains of Elon's diary, it was brought in here, said Brown. I didn't have to volunteer for the assignment, which I would have done. The diary arrived on July 23rd, 2004, and it was very lucky for me that out of 2 senior document investigators, one was away on vacation and the other was about to go away. In a way, it was appropriate because I was the one in the department who most identified with the shuttle mission and was the most devastated when it crashed. Everyone was affected, but I voiced it more than the others, she said.
Thank you, Judy. Do you want me to read now, Stan?
Yes, thank you.
Brown's first task was to ensure that the papers suffered no further damage. So an expert from the Israel Museum's paper conservation lab was consulted, and the papers were quarantined for 2 weeks to kill off any microorganisms that could have attached themselves to the papers and were attacking them. Once we started to examine the papers, we saw that they could split into 3 categories. On 8 pages, you could see the writing clearly. It hadn't been washed out. The pages were curled up and tattered, and it was like working on a jigsaw puzzle, putting the fragments back into place. Just to know where to orient the fragments, I had to try every single permutation and combination. It took a few weeks to put the puzzle of those 8 pages back together, said Brown. Once completed, Brown photographed the pages and sent them to Rona Ramon, who was back in Houston at the time. One of the pages contained the handwritten Sabbath prayer of the wine, the Kiddush, which Ramon had written out in order to be the first Jew to recite the blessing in space. Brown said that because of her religious background, she was able to piece together the scattered letters that remain on the page. When I speak about the diary to a non-religious audience and I say, I found this word, and this word, what could this document be? They usually don't know, but when I ask the question to a religious audience, they answer right away, it's the Kiddush. The second category of pages consisted of 6 that were totally washed out. Barely any traces of writing were visible whatsoever. For those, we used our VSC, Video Spectral Comparator. It has all the different light sources from UV to IR, a set of filters that can discover things the naked eye can't pick up. With the right combination, I was able to make out the writing on these pages and wrote down what I could see on the screen. Those 6 pages were technical notes Ilan wrote in the classroom, things like how to operate units, batteries, and microphones, and what kind of pills you can take in space if you have a backache, said Brown. The final category consisted of 8 more pages that were totally washed out, and the VSC was unable to shed proverbial light on. I spent the whole week trying every combination of light source, and at the end, managed only to get 8 random letters off the page. I gave the page to one of our senior photographers in the photography lab. In the past, we've had cases where we've used Photoshop for all sorts of things and managed to get good results. Can you work your magic? I asked. He called back a few hours later and told me to come to the lab. I saw something on the screen and thought he must be working on something else. Well, where is it? I asked. And he said, there it is on the screen. It was a full page of writing. It really was like magic. Brown said she took the reconstruction process very seriously and was well aware of the emotional human element in it. When Rona brought in the diary, she told me, I want you to know that this is my most private possession. She didn't know what the content was, but didn't want it spread around. At first, I had the idea of looking without seeing, of trying to deal with it without getting into it and reading any private sections. But I realized soon enough it was the exact opposite of what we had to do. I had to become totally familiarized with the handwriting and to know as many variations as I could of every letter he wrote. Then I had to get deep into the actual content because it was so fragmented. It was the biggest challenge of Brown's career, who studied chemistry at Hebrew University in Jerusalem and received her master's degree there. Since working on the project, she's been invited to lecture on the Ramon findings at conferences conferences of American forensic scientists and questioned document examiners in Memphis and in New Orleans. As I went, it went over very well and was very interesting to them, having 3 different types of reactions to work on and a whole, almost magical method of getting something that's almost totally erased and restoring it, she said. Today, the restored remains of Ilan Ramon's diary are housed in the Document Conservation Department at the Israel Museum, awaiting Rona Ramon's decision on whether to display them publicly. Brown is still working on the last 2 pages of the elusive 3rd set of pages, and when that's finished, she'll continue her everyday work of inspecting forged documents and agreements. But she'll never forget the job she had piecing together that last thoughts that the Israeli space legend put onto paper. Stan, when was this written?
Well, it was written sometime before the completion of the whole project, which took until something like 2018. Different sections of it were displayed at times, or are displayed at the Israel Museum, and I think the last one was around 2018-19. That there actually are, things that the public can see. So
because it references waiting for Rona Ramon to make a decision.
That was some time ago. That was quite some time ago. And parts of it, there's lots of displays there. Parts of it are certainly not the original. There's displays that are made for the public, but they are from the fragments that were recovered. So amazing, the world that we live in.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to. 30 comments, and I have a few more very short videos that we want to watch.
I'll just let you know, I looked up when Rona died. It was December 17th, 2018.
2018, okay. So she saw the completion of most of it.
Yeah. There's another, the Space Agency in Florida does a program every year also on the anniversary, and it was about, I think, 5 years ago now that one of Ramon's sons, who became a musician, was the featured artist on the program. And he wrote the music and sang original music. And I think he played the keyboard of a tribute to Ramon that was done 5 years ago in Florida. Okay, let me share the screen again. Take a couple of minutes.
Who is the woman on the flight?
Well, let me get further, and then we'll go back to that.
Was that Judith Resnick?
No, she was on Judith.
That was the first.
Judith was on the Challenger flight. She was the first.
Who is the female astronaut?
Anyway.
Space Shuttle Columbia and her crew was lost.
Columbia, Houston, UHF comm check.
They were 16 minutes from home.
Columbia, Houston, UHF comm check. Columbia, Houston, UHF comm check.
Columbia was hardly a thing of beauty, except to those of us who loved and cared for her. She was often badmouthed for being a little heavy in the rear end, but many of us can relate to that. Many said she was old and past her prime. Still, she had only lived barely a quarter of her design life. Columbia had a great many missions ahead of her. She, along with the crew, had her life snuffed out in her prime. Just as her crew has, Columbia has left us quite a legacy. Hail Columbia.
Their mission was almost complete, and we lost them so close to home. The men and women of the Columbia had journeyed more than 6 million miles and were minutes away from arrival and reunion. The loss was sudden and terrible, and for their families, the grief is heavy. This cause of exploration and discovery is not an option we choose. It is a desire written in the human heart. We are that part of creation which seeks to understand all creation. We find the best among us, send them forth into unmapped darkness, and pray they will return. They go in peace for all mankind, and all mankind is in their dead. Our journey into space will go on. In the skies today, we saw destruction and tragedy. Yet farther than we can see, there's comfort and hope.
Rick was a terrific human being and a great leader. He was my pilot on his first flight. I grew to really appreciate all of his talents, his gifts. His favorite saying, and I can hear him saying it right now, was, "You know, I feel more now like I did than when I first got here."
Willie McCool. Laurel described Willie as an 8-year-old trapped in a 10-year-old's body. Now, partly this referred to the fact that Willie had the genes from somewhere that made him look like a 10-year-old, his young appearance, but mainly it was a comment on Willie's almost boyish attitude.
Captain Dave Brown, United States Navy. Not only a medical doctor, but a naval aviator and an astronaut on top of that. He lived to explore, to do research, to find new cures, and he was fulfilled working in the laboratory aboard Columbia.
Kalpna, or Casey to her friends, she had a terrific sense of humor and loved flying small airplanes with her husband and loved flying in space. Flying was her passion. She would often remind her crew as their training flow would be delayed and become extended. She would say, "Man, you are training to fly in space. What more could you want?"
Laurel Clark. Laurel was meticulous and detail-oriented, but she balanced this intensity with an absolute unwillingness to start any meeting without giving you a hug or asking about your family or telling you with pride about hers.
Mike, he was a perfect choice for the payload commander. Organized, thorough, someone you could absolutely count on, a gifted leader. We all loved to see him laugh. And when he laughed, we laughed with him even harder.
Ilan Ramon
turned to me with a question. How does one mark the Sabbath in space? With every 90 minutes, another sunset. Every 10 and a half hours is a Sabbath. Every 20 days, Rosh Hashanah. Jerusalem, we have a problem. But Ilan taught us a powerful message. No matter how fast we're going, no matter how important our work, we need to pause and think about why we're here on earth.
So now you saw who those women were and the other crew members, and a message for all of us.
Thank you, Stan.
Okay, well, we have it's about 8:30. There are some others, and I guess what I can do is just send an email that people can watch at their leisure, and some of the other things that I didn't include. Ray?
Yes, I just wanted to ask briefly, because I have forgotten a lot. When the space shuttle Columbia blew up, basically, it had, I forgot, had exploded in space still 40 miles from Earth, but it came down near Texas.
Well, this was the landing. They were.
It was the landing.
Yeah, they were re-entering, and at liftoff, they noticed that one of the panels was defective and kind of shattered a little bit.
Okay.
And they were concerned about that, all the way down. They, hoped that it would. So it did. It just all came apart at once.
Thank you. Yeah, this was very moving. I mean, it's hard to believe that it's 20 years ago. It's almost like yesterday. And just want to say thank you, Stan, and Phyllis also for putting this together. Very, very.
Stan did it. I was just standing by.
No, you were a terrific assistant.
Well, another time we'll talk about Judith Resnick, who was the first Jewish woman in space at the very beginnings of the space exploration effort, the very beginnings of the space shuttles program. It turns out that this was in 1968 or whatever. I actually started in this industry myself in 1957 in the aerospace industry. And one of the things that the company that I worked for did was monitor flights of the original ones that sent monkeys up.
Wow.
And I was in the control room for one of those flights. And it was nothing like it is today, or even there was in the 60s. Later on, when computers did so much more, a lot of what we did was by hand. We got transmissions that had to be put on graph paper or that type of thing. But most of what the company did was missile launch data. They were analyzing the Thor and Atlas missiles, for the Air Force. But they also did some of the other quote space goes way back.
Well, thank you,
I got
Stan.
into the industry totally by accident.
Thank you so much, Stan. That was quite a presentation.
Well, thank everybody for attending.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Bye-bye.
Bye. We'll see you